I think first to start, I would like that Thierry gives us a little bit of a talk about his show and the works here and their importance to our conversation.
The context.
And then I would like that we proceed with the focused questions, because the topic of the discussion today is too late, the state of too late. Is it too late to change things? And is it that the museums and artists are capable of changing anything today? Are they capable of influencing what's happening? Are they capable of being a step ahead or preventing something from happening? Or are we just stating what already happened without being able to influence it? So, first.
The exhibition, bonjour, merci, thank you to come, so many. So we start slowly. It's called Too Late, because basically it's a bit what I feel. I've been gesticulating 20 years, doing different formats, saying wake up and running, doing critical run. So for the ones, this is critical run, people run debates, this is a emergency room, it's a room where people, the exhibition change every day. So I've been believing that, pulling the alarm in time will help to solve some of the issues. Let's say, for example, there is maybe xenophobia because some people have created hate fear machines. There is climate problem because we didn't pay attention for a few things. There is 26 million investment in camper-free in Denmark because nobody reacted 10 years ago and stuff. So if we are in time, we can avoid a few problems. So this is what I've been doing. And then I've been very much believing that it was possible. So I jump around and do gesticulation a lot. But maybe, I'm 58, I'm getting older, something. So there is two things. Or I'll get older, or it's too late. So this is a bit the topic of this exhibition. This blink, because I give up, it's a personal dilemma. Should I give up? What do I do? Should I do more gesticulation if it's totally unuseful? Or should I keep moving on? If you have kids, our kids are older than Greta. But if you have kids, you cannot say, I will fuck the whole thing, I give up. So it's a bit unresponsible. So let's say, I still try to say it's not too late to give up, there is still a bit of blinking I give, and maybe when you stop giving up, you give. So basically you stop jumping around, but you start beginning to be a nurse. So after the catastrophe, you don't send the alarm, you just help people, you give. You become supplies.
I guess the first question that I would like to start with is that I think in our question of whether we have problems in society, we all agree that we do. We all agree that it's some kind of critical time today. Some of us think it's to a higher degree than others, but we all understand that something needs to be done, and we feel that the politics fail us in being the agents of the people, or maybe they fail us in being the positive agent of the people. Perhaps they're being the agent of the populist view of the people, and so we feel that the system is not functioning as we wish, and the problems are not addressed directly. Where then we have the question of whether we believe that then museums and artists and art have a valid stance in being able to bring any change or influence. And this is where I would like that Erlend starts, because I think that's his very strong point.
Thank you. I don't think it's too late for nature as such. It might be too late for humankind. Nature will always find its way, so I'm not actually concerned about nature as such, but I think what we have to do is to actually address what's actually happening right now. I think it was this week or last week that the Guardian said we're not going to write about the climate change anymore, we're going to address it, climate crisis. So we are in a crisis now. And when you're in a crisis, you have choices, and being in crisis can be demanding, but also thrilling in one way, because suddenly we can be part of a new solution, maybe. But I think the reason why we're here is a combination of stupidity and neglect. And unfortunately, that's the core of humankind, I think. That's our main psychology. And in that perspective, yes, what do we need? Yeah, we need more information, we need more knowledge, we need more people that are able to move in different directions and in use different perspectives upon the problems we are facing. And I think that art and art museums potentially, I'm not saying that automatically, but potentially it can play a vital role. I started using the phrase mental fitness center about ARoS 5 years ago. First of all, to try to describe people that doesn't understand what art is about, or art institutions is about, what are we doing. Also because in Denmark, of course, you know that the government have been cutting its budget to culture, and it's growing populism in Europe. And what do we need? We need glue. We need some ways that can train you to become, not what we already know about, but to become maybe even more clever, more empathetic, more creative, and where we can develop a kind of a collectivism that we haven't seen before. And I think art can have the potential to train you through your cognitive flexibility, train you to try to understand other people's perspectives, etc. Kind of create, and maybe, hopefully, create a new way of thinking, and in that way also new mindsets and maybe new brains for tomorrow, because it's definitely clear that the brain we have today doesn't work. We're already here, and we've been stupid, and we have been neglecting, and it's us to blame.
And
we're too lazy.
Yeah, and do you think in this there's a popular opinion that museums are often using popular topics to attract people, because you, as a museum or as a museum director, of course depend on staying relevant and having people attending the exhibitions. So is it, in your opinion, valid to say that museums are using or overusing or maybe abusing the topic of various global crisis situations in order to play with people's anxiety and gain public?
No, I don't think so, because I think when you're in a crisis like we are now, we can't overuse or stress too much the importance of making people understand why we're here. I think it's really important to not be, as an institution, be moralizing, and very important not to be too light either. And because an arts institution, also like a gallery, is a space where you can expand your mind, but also a space, kind of free space, where you actually are able to discuss kind of difficult topics and topics that makes you afraid, or maybe topics that is connected to taboos, etc. And I think we need those kind of spaces more than ever. But the problem is that I think a lot of art institutions are very afraid of looking upon themselves as social instruments. When you go back to the 20th century, of course, arts institutions have been misused by different ideologies. So the institutions today is very much about we want to have a distance, we want to reflect upon the change that have already happened or is happening. But I think institutions should be much more activistic, be not only reflect upon the change, but also actually create change, which is quite radical when it comes to, coming from the university sector originally. But I think that is the way to go. Otherwise, we keep becoming a circus that has its heyday, and then suddenly people don't need us anymore. And on the other hand, it's for us, it's not so much about the past and the present as it is for us for the future. Because in general, I think too many museums, and I'm criticizing my colleagues, are more concerned about what they're good at instead of what they're good for. Why do we actually need art? Why have mankind always been producing art? And how can we communicate through art? And how can we develop our way of thinking through this strange kind of language?
And this is, I think, a good point for Thierry to answer with his many opinions. I think I heard a lot of same things from Erlend as what you.
Yeah, you speak. I listened to some video you had about fitness. You speak about the idea of effort, and it's true that it's super essential. The idea of effort. We don't get anything without an effort. So the idea of effort is super important. The problem I have is, let's say, institution, museum, biennales, and whatever. There is a little bit of effort, and very soon there is a super reward. The cake, the cafe latte, cappuccino, sushi, 3 beers, sponsor vodka called urgency. A glass of champagne. So the effort is very short. It's a bit like I see the contemporary art like watching the news. You know, you have a good meal and then you see what's happening in the world, and then you enjoy better the food. So yeah. So and I find it super dangerous because then we get this good conscience of contributing to some kind of we contribute some kind of global pain, or we know everything. We know how many civilians the Danish bombs have bombs today. It's in the newspaper. They say sorry, it was a mistake, but we know about that. We know how many people died today in Yemen. You know, we know how much the ice has been melting. We know all the things, but the cafe latte after and the prosecco is super important. So to give these people, and for example, the Venice Biennale reflect about that in the press release. They say we are going to deal with the topic of today. We are going to show you what the world problems, but we are not going to annoy. I don't know to offend anyone. We must all have fun, or it should be super agreeable. I don't get this win-win attitude.
I think you have to start knocking on the doors and keep on talking about it all the time and on all the fields. But at the same time, if art is reduced to political statements and more ideological statements, then it all becomes also kind of, I wouldn't say boring, but it's have a punchline and then it's finished. And I think what art can do is not only about like stating the obvious, but it's also being able to develop your brain for the next step. So that's the importance. And I'm not quite sure about the passages of a documenta, but what I find boring with documenta is that the documenta is, you have the contemporary art scene that refers to the contemporary art scene, to an enclosed environment.
Self-sealed.
Yeah, and I'm an art historian, but I'm also tired at the moment when you have art history about art history about art history. Then you have the meta system, and then suddenly they don't understand why is not the rest of the world interested in what I'm doing. And again, we're more concerned about what we're good at instead of what we're good for. But there's no when you're in a crisis, you know there's no simple solutions, but you have to accept that you are in a crisis. That's psychoanalysis. But again, if you reduce art to be political statements, easy slogan. I don't think this is easy. But on the contrary, it works very well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Touching moment. No, but if the institutions are not heartfelt about what they're doing, if like, for example, we're having beehives, we're changing the surroundings around the museum into more urban nature, and we try our best. We have windmill energy, etc., etc. We try to live the way we teach, and it's very hard. And what we're trying to do is to make proposals. You can pitch into that if you like to. Otherwise, I think if you want hope, you can't teach hope. You have to be encouraged to hope. But hope is something you find your way to self. And I think art can create that kind of hope, but because we really need a lot of hope to solve this problem.
I would like to take a little step back, and Erlend said something very interesting. He said that he thinks one of the solutions is to stop talking about what happened and stating the obvious, but try to prevent something that didn't happen and train people to be ready for that. And I would like to talk a little more about how would you see that, or do you have any ideas about
how the solution?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I don't have the solution, but I think it's very important not to state the obvious, because the obvious is stated over and over and over again. But I think I think art institutions and artists should be in advance of what we've already stated. In my text for the show running on ARoS now, I'm talking about the need for a mental revolution, where we start talking about a new kind of revolution, where we think upon each other in a different way. We're questioning the economical system. We're talking about trade. We're talking about how we interact socially, but also welfare-wise, etc. And that's quite a heavy burden to talk about, but it will be a burden. My daughter, she's 20, and when she was born, I thought, I don't want to be in your shoes when you're 70, because then you will have all these issues about the climate, etc. And last year I became really depressed, like physically depressed, because of the situation. And that's why also my text is like it is in that book. I think it's very important to think about the possibilities and how creativity is actually able to change things. Over and over again, I'm so surprised in a positive way of how artists are able to imagine things that is not there. Imagine and also connecting different kind of know-how, science, etc., and able to create a possible future. And I think it would be more and more important for institutions like us to invite those kind of artists to make suggestions for what can the future be like what if. Of course, we know aesthetics is important. We know that the concept is important and the social context of it. But still, I think maybe that's the main role of the museum for the future, to suggest what if.
The scenarios.
Yeah.
That reminded me of a little bit, the beginning of your talk reminded me of this recent work that Thierry has made, which says, I'm not an artist, I'm not an activist, I'm a father. And I think it's a very strong statement, meaning that basically everybody who has children is thinking for the future.
People without children, they don't think about the future.
That's a good question. I don't want to offend anyone right now in that.
I would like to question the idea of creativity, because we can say that the gas chamber where creative torture can be extremely creative. So creative can be a value that we can question, because the bad people can also use the creativity to sadically destroy others. So this idea, I think I have a solution actually.
Yeah, great.
For the whole system.
I'm making notes.
I think that this is why the solution, if we have to wake up people, let's say, we need to think efficiency. It's the same with the revolution. Let's say, if we want a revolution, we need a bit of strategy. So actually, the art is not maybe about creativity, but now it becomes about strategy. What are the plans to succeed? So let's say, you say people are lazy, sleepy, whatever. So first we have to find out why they are sleepy. So you find the problem. Not so easy, not so difficult to find. We can find it and admit it, and then how to wake them up. So to wake them up, we need poetry. We need it, but maybe we need to think about the method to wake them up. I see two methods. The first one is awareness muscle. Let's say a daily training, which has to be based on addiction. So when we speak about museum experience, the thing is that people go to a museum, but they go once every 3 months, or they go to Louisiana every 6 months, or to your museum 2 months. But the thing is is what they understand the American series or Norwegian series. People get addicted. So in order to start to touch people, you have to create something which is addictive. The first thing is to make the museum an addiction place, not for the cafe, but for the critic. Then they come every day, and then when you have this addiction, you start to create some automatic, because people wake up without pain, they just get addicted, and they wake up 1 minute more every day. So after 3 months of addiction, you have human being addiction. Then you have to count how many can you wake up. So let's say if you have a museum like ARoS, I don't know, you have 1,000 people every day or something. So you should count not how many cafe latte, but how many people have been wake up. So you count maybe you have wake up 3 people a day. In a month is 90 people. So 90 people in Aarhus wake up, it's already a result. But then if you make a wake up system which become a format, you can multiply the system. It's not Art Basel, it's Art Basel Miami or Le Louvre Abu Dhabi. You know the idea you can. So once you find the method to wake up people, then you have to multiply as many places. So you have 200 times ARoS. So then you start to wake up people. So you have addiction as the first thing. I can go tell you how to develop awareness muscle. And there is a second thing which is ever more efficient, is the moment of clarity. So instead of people getting addicted coming every day, you wake them up at once. That's what whistleblower use. Let's say you are an officer for the American Army and you see picture of torture the whole day, and one day you say it's too much. What I'm seeing is too much. I want the world to know. And then in 1 minute you change your life. So it's to study how museum can create not a pleasure and experience, but a wake up moment of clarity. So with these 2 methods, maybe 10 people a day. So I see things like that. It doesn't seem to be so poetic. It seems to be like Ford making cars, as many cars as possible. But if we have to wake up people, we have to think about the idea of rentability. At the end of the year, you make the count. How many people did you wake up? After method to wake up people, I think it's about making them the center of the problem. So they admit that, and then they can see the rest of the world and the different methods for that. And after it can be artworks that can do that. After it's a question of sculpting them, video them. It's another topic.
Yeah, at the same time, I think the climate debate, when you see the movement and Greta Thunberg and school strike for environment, etc., you can also it's the movement is growing very fast, and even in Denmark, every political party is actually just debating climate, which is 4 years ago. I don't remember the last election one on that. It was a new thing. It's quite a new thing that everybody's talking about it. So I think the society would change very fast now, faster than we think. So I'm not quite sure if it's our obligation to make the wake-up call, because I think the society is on an awakening right now. But I think what would be more important, again, is like, okay, how do we create the possibilities for the people they are awakening? How do we address the importance of knowledge? How can we avoid populism? How can we create a better society which is sustainable, both when it comes to humans, but also, of course, to nature? So so what I'm saying is that I think the train have already left the station, and a lot of institutions are still at the station. But at the same time, we can still play a vital role, and if we don't, we won't exist in 30 years from now.
She's coming tomorrow. She will be in Copenhagen tomorrow.
Yes.
Later. It's a very good example, and it's true that it gives some positive energy to think that this happened. But basically, she's doing a artistic stunt. What she does is, she produces carton, and then she writes school strike and pop, and then she finds cheap things, and then she writes she's striking, so she communicates. Me, I will put it in the frame, or she goes with the train, and then, for example, I listed an interview last time, super important at the parliament, and she says something super important, and every 2 minutes she say, "Is the microphone working?" This is blinking, or artists will do some smoke or something. But she says, "Is this microphone working?" Which means, do you hear what I'm telling you? So she used artistic. She's an artist. So, but in order to make change, it'd be good with 10 like that. One is good, but how to have 10 like her? She will create new vocation, but we need 10 or 100 minimum.
Basically, I'm now in between the two positions. Do we at all need artists like Thierry to wake us up, or will it happen eventually anyway? Is what he's doing relevant to any change, or is it something that will just become the artifact of the time?
The legacy.
Yeah, the legacy.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, we need artists like Thierry.
Thank you.
Also because sometimes when you look at the art scene, I'm not collectors and galleries, etc., museum director, you kind of lose faith in the future.
Yeah.
And because it's very superficial, it's very much about the money and the prestige. And of course, when you're doing a show like this, with you mainly addressing the art world.
It's a gallery show.
Yeah, it's a gallery show. So this is not for the broad public. This is for the established cultural elite, so to say. And I think it's very important that these people that are well off, and maybe it doesn't have to worry as much for the future as people otherwhere in the world, etc., actually have the real awakening, and actually maybe also you will inspire a new generation of artists, etc. Of course you need that kind of artists, but I don't think it will change the general public, because that needs different kind of movements and different kind of context.
I think actually Thierry is I would question more the influence of his works here in the gallery, because also we've been working with Thierry for a little more than 2 years now, and we've been really trying to polish him into a gallery format, I would say, tame him. Because polish him. Because we are gallery, and we are, when we do the show, we're trying. But Thierry is doing a lot of things outside of the gallery and outside of the commercial context, and that's actually his most important. I think where he engages with a lot of people and brings changes in that way, and by creating these formats which then become formulas which can be multiplied and reused. For instance, yesterday we had used his format of slow dance debate in Kiev, where people were taking part in the performance and debating about whether spectacle is taking away their freedom today. And by the way, that went very well. But by this, I think there's something genius in this way of creating the formula, which then spreads and continues to exist. So creating the concept.
Inspiration is always the best way to make a message go around.
It's about strategy. Let's say it's like you say, it's a gallery and it's objects, and people can buy them, and if people buy them, I can be in the street 1 month, 3 months, 6 months doing my things. Let's say one of my strategy, for example, when I do emergency room, it's, for example, you see here, it's an emergency room. This artist, Nadia Plesner, she exhibited a piece about, there is a pedophile conference in the city where we are exhibiting. So she has a piece to inform people they didn't know that there is a pedophile with 150, is in Poland, 150 people doing that. But when she says that, we make a dispositif that all these cameras are filming what she says. So this museum where there is 30, 40 people a day, once you have cameras here, and if it's New York, then it can be ABC News or CNN, come and film what these people have to say. So for example, in the emergency room, we have people working with bees and Bayer and stuff. In 2007, they were saying, and then they were on ABC News, in the news, and 6 million people saw the story. So from this, here it's a bit different. But for example, on this format, the idea you connect what the artist has to say, it goes to the media, it's the same day, it's the proverb of the day, it goes to the news, and 6 million people can think, or maybe they're too stupid to think because they sleep, but at least you find a trick to broadcast it out. So it's a question of method and strategy. So here is a gallery, it's made for that, but let's say like the slow dance we can do in the pension house where all people live, we can make a format where they debate on rollator, we can make a rollator format, or we can make things for kindergarten. It can adapt, but the goal is the same, to wake up people, and if it's a museum format. So there is, and when you say, I don't know, you need people like me or something like that, actually, I want to say that it's not what I do is a failure, but basically it doesn't work. All this I'm doing, I'm doing it, I'm writing them, maybe it can be useful one day, but it's super difficult. It doesn't work very much.
But it's very difficult for you to tell whether it works or not, because it doesn't work for you in the way that you don't become rich and famous.
Yeah, but also
What
people
is the
don't like
criteria?
to people don't like you do like that, you know. And you say that in your talk. Also, people don't want, you know, what people don't like. It's if you ask them to, you know, they don't like that. So basically, by asking them to do self-criticism and find the problem in their own system, you lose them by definition. I mean, I remember once I made a critical one with the people from MS. It's Volksambirke. Yeah, and then they asked me, "Can you do a critical one about climate for us?" They all had T-shirts, uniform from the MS, and then they say, "What is the campaign?" I say, "I don't say the campaign. I ask you your opinion about are we guilty or not of climate change, and you have to write your own slogan." And say, "But what's the campaign?" I say, "No, it's your own slogan. What do you think?" And then it was very difficult for these activists to have their own slogan because they were always an army campaigning for something. So as soon as you ask somebody, "What is your opinion?" people run away, by definition. This I don't have a solution.
And then here it comes to a slightly different angle, because if we have a museum and artist, and in their collaboration of bringing some influence, how can museum empower the artist or the artist empower the museum in this relationship? We see that often a very well-known artist will be touring his works from one exhibition to another around the museums, so you will have the same names circulating in different countries, different parts of the world, kind of saying the same things that we're all used to. We all know what to expect of them, and sometimes they just change the shape a little bit or the wrapping of it. But we all know this artist and we all know what they have to say. So why do museums continue to insist on showing the same well-known artist again and again, instead of, for instance, digging up some very fresh radical material and bringing that to the front?
Because it's safe. That's one thing, and the other thing is that if you look up on art museums in general, there's very strong the idea of conformity, consensus, and that's something you learn when you're an art historian. That the paradigm is defined by the consensus of it. But there's one reason why most museums have white walls, why they hang it the same way, why the curators are talking about that the artist is challenging or investigating or exploring, etc. And they use the same words. And I think it's fair. It's all about fair. That the fear of not having your colleagues' acceptance. Because if you go to a university, the way you prove yourself right is to prove somebody else wrong.
Yeah.
So you go to university for 6 or 10 years, and that's what you're training at. To not be wrong. But the idea of conformity is that the fear of doing something wrong is much stronger than the wish to do something right. Okay. But on the other hand, I don't mind like showing, for example, Thomas Sabsay or Ricky Savani or Team Lab at which is world famous artists in the Tomorrow's the Question. But I think it's very much about also how you, as an art institution, curate this. How do you put them together? And I think that's more important than actually what kind of artist, what kind of level are they on, etc. Being a curator can be like being a chef. You can take something well-known raw materials and then you could combine it and then create something quite unique and refreshing and different. But the problem is that a lot of art institutions and curators tend to create the same meal over and over again. And tastes the same, smells the same, looks the same.
Do you think that what you're doing in ARoS is different compared to other museums in Denmark?
Yeah.
Are you trying to do something different?
Sometimes it differs very much. For example, I did a show called Far From Home last year, based upon our collection, and it's about the idea of home, or actually not ever coming home, and addressing social loneliness, addressing the idea of home as a mental state and inherited value, etc., etc. And if you walk into that exhibition, it looks like one big installation. And when we started doing it in that way, it was almost like writing a novel, and we got heavily criticized for it. And you can't do that, you can't do that as a curator, you can't create something that people will maybe misunderstand as a piece of work, maybe an installation, etc. But if we don't dare to challenge ourselves, why should we talk about challenging the audience? So it's very easy. It's like putting ourselves out of the comfort zone, because if we don't do that, the audience won't do that.
Yeah.
And people don't come. If you don't show what they expect, they don't come.
Yeah, but the problem is that when we have really famous artists, but when you do something really different, and ARoS is a strange museum in many ways, because we don't have the traditional art audience. We're not for example, in a major capital, but we've been existing in that building for 15 years, and for 15 years the museum have been, also on my predecessor, doing strange stuff. So people expect strange stuff to happen.
But are you also kind of, because when you say that it's already been a tradition to do strange stuff, so then you're not doing anything new. You're doing what is expected of the museum, so in a way you're still in the comfort zone.
No, it means that we have the liberty to do strange stuff.
Okay. So it's a little easier for you than, for instance, for SMK?
No, I don't think it's easier for us. I think it would be as easy for them to do it, but you should start doing it sometime. But we try to differentiate our collection, our presentations, our collection, the way we do exhibitions, etc. And we try to reinvent us from time to time, and sometimes it goes bad, so to say. We are like, oh, this didn't work. We took it too far or too short. We don't know. But it's very much about like taking risks, and of course SMK can do that. Every institution can do that if they'd like to.
Yeah. Thierry, and what do you think about the famous or well-established artists being part of museum shows and the proportion of...
It's okay, it depends how much they repeat themselves and how much they fall. You can really see, I will not say any names, but you can really see some of the artists, they should do it less.
Just to come to a kind of solid end of this part of the conversation, the end of part one, do you think that museums today are being effective at using the right instruments, and the instruments meaning artworks, to show to people to reach to be efficient?
Efficient. I mean, I don't see museum as such. I see contemporary art. So it's Biennale Museum. It's the same package for me. Is they efficient? Yes, they are efficient sleeping pills. What? They're efficient to make people sleep.
Yeah.
No, it's what I think. Maybe I change. Maybe after this conversation, I will change.
After all the attempts of Erlend to be different and do something crazy, and all his fears.
No, it's not about this museum. It's not. I mean, it's a category. You know, it's like in sport. You have some people they play golf and some they run. You know, there is different category. Contemporary art with this dispositive setting, public audience, and chill out bars on Friday, and performance with naked people on Tuesdays, and bicycle in the shop, in the keller,
sex and porn exhibition,
and whatever, you know.
Porn and art.
Contemporary art and all these tricks, it's a category. So for me, it's not ARoS or something. It's a category. And if you ask me, this category is making people sleep. After, you can ask me, you can commission me to find some solution or something. But
very smooth. Yeah.
No, but I can change. Let's say maybe something change. Maybe I get enlightened.
All right. I think we've tried our best to dig a little bit.
It was a debate, so.
Yeah. It was more a consensus than a debate, but I think it was very interesting, and it's a conclusion of the first part of this talks, and I think we should move on to questions if anybody has them.
In terms of the Friday bars or the events,
Yes.
that doesn't really relate to the artworks or the exhibitions and also the capillarities and all this. Isn't that just a way to actually attract other people than this elite into the institution? I mean, isn't the
Just what you were saying, like a habit.
I would argue that the capillate is also an instrument to actually get others than the cultural elite
Yes.
to actually come into a place of reflection.
But if you attract them with slick boutique, sugar and stuff. If you attract them with, like in Christiania, with dope or whatever, they come. But they should come because they want to be, criticized. Or, if they come to have their smoothie for 100 kroner and something, and I don't know what kind of art they are interested in. Definitely not the ones that shake them. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's true. We have to attract people. But there is also a trick to attract people.
Yeah, but I think I understand your question, because it's awesome to make people comfortable around those kind of institutions, because very often when you're entering an art institution, even for me, I feel stupid because I felt talked down to. And I think just making an effort to make you comfortable, you're welcome here, it's very important. And maybe you're curious, maybe you're not, but after you've been there a couple of times, you might dare to try to dive into it.
If there weren't any capillates, then I think there would be a group of people that would never come there. They would never, even though it was a very good exhibition that maybe made the people come there question their own lives. If they weren't kind of invited in there in a way, I would.
But it's like the opening, they come to the gallery for the free drinks, but they never come after, so what do you use these people for?
Are you sure? Are you sure they don't know?
They don't come back.
Just saying stuff.
They don't come back. But it's funny because it's a bit an ambiguity, because is it comfort or uncomfortable? You have to take them out of the comfort zone, or you have to give them slick?
Make them comfortable.
Both. I don't believe in this win-win.
I do.
Jens had a question.
Yeah, I saw your stone in there where it says ytringsfrihed, or in English freedom of speech. And now you have gone around the streets and museums and biennales and whatever and told people that it's time to act.
Yeah.
And you saw nothing happened. Nothing happened in the whole world. We still...
It's worst.
Yeah, every day is just getting worse, and tomorrow will be even worse. So when do you take the stone and throw it and say, because you give up now, or do you just give up and lay down and die? Or
Why should I be? I mean, I've done, like I said...
Because it seems that it doesn't help to use your ytringsfrihed. Not at all.
Yeah,
the political parties now
exactly
for this election we have now. Yes, they are talking about the climate change now, but they're not doing anything to it. They're still talking about growth, and that's what it's about. Nobody dares to say we have to use less. And what do we do? When do we throw the stone and say enough is enough? If you have a bus driver and you're driving with him and then he's going over the mountain and fall down, and you know that you try to tell him to stop, 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 but just before you go over, you would go out and throw him out of the bus or kill him or something and turn it to the right or the left. Why don't you take the stone out?
That's a good question, and to be self-critic, first it's because I'm a culé, or you say I'm a chicken. I'm not brave. This was first part one. And I have a good conscience. I feel I did it. I mean, when it was COP15, I engaged about 300 people, invited the Yes Men to be a part of it. So I think I've done quite a lot. And now I'm a bit more tired, and I feel less and less backup, more and more lonely, and more depressed. And basically, it's your turn.
Yeah.
So I pass you the
stone.
because we have all.
Because I don't believe in democracy.
Well, but it's not about. It's true that democracy. Actually, you mentioned democracy is very connected to the participative art in the museum. I have a slogan saying that the illusion of participation. You know, for example, museums they make people participate, so they feel they are part of the artwork. For example, let's say CC people write on the wood, so they're part of the artwork. We don't know what they write. You know. It's not important, they participate. But this illusion of participating is like the democracy. We have the illusion of participating, but if the power of people want to focus, they focus anyway, and we cannot complain. So, we see in France. You know. So it's an illusion, yeah?
There was more questions.
So, in the art world, there's a lot of this, where we're talking to people who are already aware of the problems, and even if they might have the means or the influence to actually make some kind of substantial change. It is more of a theater, like Thierry says. You know, we come to the gallery so we can be seen and, you know, feel important and all of these things. And I feel that that visceral need for something genuinely being stirred inside us is not one of the reasons that people engage with art anymore. I don't feel that people really go to a gallery or a museum or any sort of art event and really are open to this kind of notion. So then to the question of what can artists and institutions do to essentially provoke people and to, you know, jab that knife between the ribs, because that's what must happen. Because if someone is already aware of the issues, that's already a big step ahead. But if they're not doing anything about it, then what is the point? So then, you know, Thierry talked about creating addiction, right? The main reason that things aren't happening in the world is because we've all been placated. We're docile, we know these things happen, we have, you know, the science is clear, the information is out there, we see what politicians are doing, and still so many people don't turn up to vote. Is democracy still a real tool? Maybe. But at the end of the day, if the people that have the knowledge and the means and the influence don't make an effort to engage society in the same way that they've been placated, then I don't see any real sort of change happening. So then the question is, how do you use that influence and, you know, modern tools of reaching people and communicating in a way that goes outside of the gallery space, the museum? So use exhibitions and you know, art talks like this as a catalyst, but then continue that, you know, kind of have it explode out and keep reaching. Keep trying to reach people.
Yeah, try to answer that. In 2017, we did the big triennial in Aarhus. It had that, and we did a big outside part of it, and had more than almost 600,000 visitors, and it was free. So, and we know for sure that we had a lot of visitors that never goes to a museum, that was exposed to art, etc. And the topic was the garden. We went back to the Renaissance and up to our own time, and it was man's understanding or misunderstanding of nature. It's like you take the train through Denmark and everything is green, and then you think it's nature, but it's not. It's green industry. And it was highly acclaimed as an exhibition, but what we did also achieve was a debate upon what is nature, what is not nature. And I think we also raised the level of knowledge, especially in Jutland, where we are situated, which is also a big farming country. In that way, you kind of start not only addressing an issue, but you also make people talk about it. Because what we did was unexpected. And for an institution, I think it's very important to be not deliver what you expect. At the same time, try to pull the rug beneath ourselves, but also the audience, and not trying to please you. Because if you're starting to please, you become social fluffers, and that's have no function at all. So you talked about strategy. I think it's to always break with the expected. Everybody's talking about disruption these days. I hate the word because, like, the art history is full of destruction, and that's what's actually made art history. But I think that it's of high value to think about as an institution, because otherwise we're just copying each other.
But for example, emergency room, one of the words is exhibition is unpredictable, and this is impossible to get it out, because no institution wants to use the word the exhibition is unpredictable. Nobody wants that. So it sounds good, but in real institutions don't accept what is unpredictable. They can have surprise. They can have surprise, but by definition they don't dare.
It's not about the art, it's about you. They don't trust you.
Let me see. Yeah, because unpredictable is unpredictable. You know.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
That was the moment of clarity.
What can I do? Why not? By the way.
Yeah, we take that on backstage.
Why? Why not?
And it's good.
But there were some questions in the very back. I don't know if you still have any questions. Yeah, Tiana?
It's not a question. It's a comment. Because I found it quite interesting, the comparison that was made earlier about the democratic system as a system we live in, and the museum as one of the main institutions for art. Because the comparison, as I understood, also has to do a little bit with the critique Thierry had on the art system, not being
Art
able
establishment.
not being able to create a valuable critique without actually amputating it, but doing it. And in a democratic system, basically, you invite everybody to be critique, and you can even invite others to criticize the democracy itself. But the interesting thing which we are observing around us is that actually it is destroying this critique by absorbing it. So whatever we would say as a critique, it would be absorbed and included, so it stops being a critique. So the idea of losing the counterculture function is quite interesting. And this is exactly what happens also in the museums. The museums are not being able to be a counterculture to the established.
But the museums,
because the museums are part of the whole system, because you cannot do unpredictable exhibitions because you're depending on the money from the state, from the sponsors, you are in family with other museums, there is a system, and so on. So the logic of democracy as being idea of freedom, which is actually destroying the critique by welcoming everything and making it neutralizing it. It's a logic that can be compared quite easily, and I find it quite interesting because that's exactly how we started the debate, that Thierry said, oh, please leave discussions, the political discussions, stay away from the political discussions if you're going to do it like that. And I have seen a couple of discussions about really touching issues in the art world, such as refugees or climate, and some of them I find very related to, because I came here as a refugee myself, but debated in the way which didn't serve anybody. And so you could then say, but should the museums and the art world stop talking about these things? Or what? No. So, but this is the interesting logic, which is kind of can be compared with democracy, the unfunctionality of democracy. Yeah.
The illusion of consensus as well, yeah. No, I think it's really important what you're talking about. Also because I think in the beginning, the idea of the museum comes from the idea of the Enlightenment, right? And then later on became part of the idea of the national state, and in Denmark and Norway and Sweden later on became a very important part of the welfare state, the general education. But I think today, especially a lot of museums are not quite sure what role we should play, because is it about enlightenment, is it about the national state or the welfare state, but for how long will the welfare state be around? What should we do? At the same time, like cutting the funding for the culture, etc., etc. So it's kind of a schizophrenic task to try to find out.
Yeah, and in this connection, I would just actually like to ask Thierry, when you have been doing these projects as formats, other places that activate with a similar recipe but with different results, have you been seeing differences in the cultures?
Yes, a lot.
And how exactly? Because that's quite interesting, because we are looking from the perspective of Denmark, even though the art world is global, so still how the audience reacts to the art and what our audience expects to see in the art world. The Danish audience is different from the Eastern Europe or from China or from
Here
America.
you don't debate.
So I would just like, since you have been moving your format, that's also kind of an interesting experience to hear about.
It's different to do it in Napoli, where people debate for 5 hours, and in Denmark where nobody wants to debate. In America they want to debate, but they want to make business at the same time. So there is big difference, yeah. So, but it's the idea of the format that the recipe has to adapt. Some countries have censure, like Denmark, and some countries have less censure.
But I think every country has a censor now. You have censor in
different levels,
America,
different methods.
Yeah. Or actually self-censor, even more.
And also, even the funding is different. Like I'm Norwegian, and in Norway it's quite common that an institution has 80 to 90% funding, public funding. In Aarhus we have 20% public funding. So that means that if we don't have a flow of audience, we can shut it down. So we have to be very good at communicating, not not trying we're not trying to serve what you expect, but at the same time we have to be very concerned about, do you have a good experience, etc. But a lot of Norwegian museums, they don't care about the audience. They don't matter because they have the money, like in Dubai.
Yeah, about the same petrol. But the Norwegians sell the weapons to Dubai. Yes, so they even make more business. Sorry. No, what I want to insist when I criticize the contemporary is the incapacity of the contemporary to be in time. Let's say, and you speak a lot this word flexibility or something similar, the faculty to adapt. And the problem with the museum, they cannot adapt. They don't have a structure. What I will call a form. I will go to you and I say, give me a room where we can adapt any minute. Then it pulses. But how it is, it's planned 1 year, 6 months before, so you never adapt. So tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, it's Saturday, but Monday, let's say Trump phoned to what is the president in Denmark, we need a war with Iran. Suddenly, hallelujah, the Danish, they can go to war again, they're happy. They bomb Iran. And what the contemporary after ARoS will express about that, you're blocked, you won't be able to go in the debate, Danish bombing Iran Monday. So it means you are out of any debate. So the lack, you speak about flexibility, maybe the viewer can be flexible, but the museum itself is rigid, like the stone.
And we leave you with that feeling for the weekend.
Yes!
We can continue this discussion now. You're welcome to stay and continue talking. We're going to offer some cafe latte
Smoothie.
to make you feel
Some toxic.
to make you all feel comfortable. we are rounding up this one-way discussion and move into the format of talking face-to-face with all of you.
Victory.
Really big thank you to all of you for coming. And we hope that, that many of you can come back to our part 2, which is happening on Monday. It's the same topic with a different museum director, whom we are also going to try to get out of his comfort zone. And but it's very interesting for me to continue this conversation with a representative of a different museum and a different vision and a different city, because it's going to be SMK with Mikkel Bo. So, but you will be able to watch it on video.
Yes, you can come.
Oh, you can come. Thank you very much.